Today we're going to be looking at an ECU that's not widely seen in our part of the world, so that's New Zealand and Australia. However, it does have a pretty massive and passionate following in the United States and its home country, Brazil. Now, it's an ECU that is suitable for use in street car applications, but particularly suitable for use in motorsport drag racing applications. It also has one glaringly obvious and unique feature that, when you think about it, really makes quite a lot of sense. It's a complete engine control ECU, dash display and logger built into one housing. Now, when I first read about one of these FuelTech units, I thought, yeah, that makes sense. And then I thought more, that wow, that really makes sense, and why have I not seen one of these before? When you're setting up the electronic package in a new build, often a lot of the time is spent making the parts of the system play nice with one another and exchange data in a friendly way. By moving the ECU, display and logger into one unit, this is taken care of for you and is likely to save you a heap of time. So as you can probably tell, I'm pretty excited to crack into the box and get a good look at this unit and see what it's all about. So getting into our box here, we can see it's come nicely packaged. We've got our removable sleeve, which is thankfully easy to get off, with a pretty sturdy box underneath. And right away on top, we can see we've got a good view of the unit. It's nicely packaged in some tight foam, so that's going to make it anywhere in the world unscathed. As per usual, we have actually had this out of the box before, as we did need to take some promotional photos. It was supplied with a protective cover over the screen just to avoid it getting any scratches in shipping. So because it's directly on top, we'll pop the unit out and have a quick look at that first off. So we can see it's a die-cast metal case, powder coated in I'd call it a satin black. It's got a little bit of gloss to it. Very prominent red seal around the edges here, and they do rate this unit to an IP67 sealing, which means it is actually completely submersible for a short period of time. It's going to be ideal for marine use. On the back of the unit here, we can see we've got our AMP Super Seal 1.0 connectors, so I do really love to see those, as they're easily and cheaply available and pretty prevalent in aftermarket automotive and motorsport applications. We've got the two connectors on there. They're both 34-way, but they have used different colours and also different keying patterns. So that means it's going to be impossible to mix up those connectors when the installation is being done. We've got a standard USB mini port up the top here for interfacing to a laptop. Always like to see that, as it means you don't need a dedicated tuning cable. And we've got the internal map sensor connection on the back here as well. We've got 4 threaded mounting bosses. Those threads actually look reasonably coarse, so I suspect with this being primarily aimed at a US market, they're probably going to be an imperial thread. Over onto the front and the business end of the unit. Around the perimeter here, we've got 4 colour and intensity configurable LEDs for driver alerts and warnings. And along the top here, we've got 10 LEDs, also colour and intensity configurable, to be used as a progressive shift light. In the middle of all our LEDs there, we've got our full colour sunlight readable 4.3-inch display. I couldn't find any specifications on the pixel density of the display, but I suspect it's probably 800 by 480, as that would be pretty common for a 4.3-inch display. Now, apart from housing a complete EFI ECU, a logger and the display, this is also a touch screen, and that really sets it apart from even any other dash display on the market at the moment. FuelTech state that you could install this in a vehicle and do all your setup and configuration completely from the touch screen without ever needing to pull out your laptop. In reality, that's probably not a way anyone's going to go, as the initial configuration, setup and tuning process is quite in-depth, and you're going to want to be using your laptop for that. Where the touchscreen is really going to come into its own, though, is when you're sitting in the staging lane waiting for your pass down the quarter mile, and you just need to make that quick change to adjust for the atmospheric conditions or the track conditions on the day. You're going to be able to do that sitting from the driver's seat. Just pop the unit to one side and we'll have a look at what we get in the rest of the box here. So we've got another box here which is going to have some accessories in it. Right away on top, we've got a USB dongle on a lanyard. So that's going to have the FT Manager software to load onto your laptop. That's for interfacing to and configuring the device. It's also got FuelTech's latest product catalog and a complete suite of product manuals for all the products that they sell at the moment. So that's going to have you covered no matter which FuelTech product you happen to have purchased. We've got some suction cup mounts for a windshield here. I'm actually not completely sure what you'd use these for, but possibly if you were doing an installation where the dash needs to be moved or it's just a temporary installation, they might come in handy. We've got a pretty elaborate FuelTech badge to go on the back of your car here and let everyone know what ECU you're running. That's in a very American style. We've also got a little bit more swag here, a wee FuelTech keyring in the style of your FT600 ECU. Even got the wee AMP super seals on the back there. That's actually pretty cool. I suspect that's probably going to make its way into my collection of keyrings. Down the bottom here we've got some rubber isolation mounts. So those are going to screw into the mounting locations on the back of the display ECU here, and just give it that little bit of isolation from vibration when you've got it installed on the flat panel of the dashboard of the vehicle. Digging further into the main box here, I can see we've got some more goodies below. This is... so that's going to be a wee protection cover that goes over the display when the vehicle it's in isn't being used, just to protect it from dust and grime that is just all too prevalent when you're dealing with race cars. We've also got a standard USB mini cable, gold-plated ground contacts. That's actually quite nice to see. That means that's probably a pretty high-quality USB cable. And we've got a length of PVC map line here. It's nice that they've included that. It's interesting that they've included the sort of plastic PVC line as opposed to rubber or silicon line. There are some schools of thought that say that this is actually going to give you a slightly more accurate map signal, as it won't expand and contract with changes in pressure. I suspect it's going to be much of a muchness though, and you'll be fine running any line up to the display. Right down the bottom of the box here we have a full colour, pretty comprehensive printed owner's slash user's manual. This is going to be great to go on your bedside table so you can annoy your significant other by reading it late into the night, much as I did. Now I have actually read this owner's manual in its entirety because geek, and I can say it's definitely one of the better user manuals I've come across in the automotive aftermarket. Even if you're only considering a FuelTech among other ECU options at the moment, I would definitely recommend giving this a look. There's some absolutely fantastic general knowledge information in there. They go into a lot of detail on setup of crank and cam triggers, and particularly plumbing of different wastegate options. I've got some really good diagrams in there and how you plumb up a wastegate for a turbo application. And that includes using pressurized CO2 in a wastegate application. So nice to see those diagrams in there. With our box emptied out now, we can just close that up quickly so it's out of the way and get back to our FuelTech and talk about some of its specifications. Now, getting into the specifications of the unit, it is a top-tier ECU. It is the flagship of FuelTech's model range, and it is appropriately spec'd. It's capable of full sequential control of a 12-cylinder or 4-rotor engine, and it has a huge array of options for running up to 16 high-impedance injectors in various staged patterns. As mentioned, the motorsport features of the ECU are currently targeted at drag racing applications, so it has various options for staging assistance, burnout mode, two-step limiters, progressive nitrous control, and one that I would really love to test, which is wheelie control. Now, this would involve having a car capable of actually pulling a wheelie off the line, so that's something we're going to have to work towards. The wheelie control makes use of the device's inbuilt gyroscope and accelerometer, meaning that it can detect both the pitch, angle and rate of the vehicle, and combined with looking at the difference in the front versus the rear wheel speeds means it can detect if the front wheels are off the ground. It can then instigate a timing retard, ignition cuts, or even close your throttle slightly to hopefully get the front end planted again in a reasonably soft manner. The unit also has an onboard 8-bar map sensor, which is the highest reading integrated map sensor I've seen on an ECU. Now, it's going to be great for high boost drag applications, but will cost you a little bit of resolution if you're going to be running, say, 20 psi of boost on a street car, as that will use less than half the map sensor's overall range. It's probably not going to be a huge issue, but it's a good one to be aware of. Now, as mentioned, the input and output specifications are top tier, with engine position and speed inputs capable of accepting variable reluctor or digital signals. There are 20 general purpose inputs, which are all software configurable to read analog or digital signals, with software enableable pull-ups, meaning you can interface directly to temperature sensors quite easily. There are 32 output channels, 16 of which are open collector outputs recommended for injector use, and 8 of which are for ignition control. But they are all configurable to control other functions. The final 8 outputs are half-bridge drivers, meaning they can drive an output on either the high side or the low side, and are capable of driving a DC motor, in particular an electronic throttle. Now, as mentioned, this is an integrated ECU display and logger. So you can log any of the internal channels of the ECU at a frequency of up to 200 Hz, but you can vary the frequency you're logging a channel at per channel. So this means for things that move quite slowly, such as engine coolant temperature, you can log at a lower rate to save a little bit of data and have a longer overall log there. Things that are going to move quite quickly, like engine RPM, you can log at the maximum rate to really hone in on those transient conditions. There are a couple of features I would have liked to have seen on the device, particularly because it's FuelTech's flagship model. An onboard wideband O2 sensor controller would have been nice, but this does usually take up to 6 pins of the connector, which is pretty prime real estate when they have so many ignition and injector outputs. We haven't installed one of these units in a vehicle yet, but the touch interface on the front does have a bit of a gloss to it, and I suspect this could make visibility a little bit of an issue under some circumstances. There is an integrated shade hood along the top of the device here, and hopefully that would mitigate any of those visibility issues when you were sitting in the driver's seat. Now, while researching for this video, I had a really good read through FuelTech's website, and I definitely recommend having a browse. In particular, there are a couple of handy tools there, such as a simple injector size calculator based on how many cylinders your engine has and your target power levels. There was also a good article written by dragzine.com, which focuses more on using the ECU for a street application and how it stacks up. It's definitely worth a read. I've got my power supply set up under the bench here, and I've made a simple patch harness so we can send some power to the device to power it up and get a quick look at that display in action and check out the responsiveness of the touch screen. So I'll just go ahead and I'll plug that one in now. The first thing I've noticed is that the display is nice and bright with crisp colours. They could have done with a little bit better anti-aliasing on the edges of the fonts and the graphics here, but I'd say once again, once you've got this installed and you're in the driver's seat, that's not going to be as noticeable. Now, I haven't actually seen a spec, but this does look to be a resistive touchscreen overlay, but it's still very responsive, and it being resistive means you should still be able to use it with racing gloves on, which is going to be pretty important. So if we pop through a couple of the menus here, we can see we do in fact have access to all of our main tables. So it would be possible to do a complete setup and tuning of this without actually having to get your laptop. But once again, that's probably not how you're going to do it in reality. The main dashboard screen is completely configurable with various options for gauge sizes and layout. So you're going to be able to tailor it to you perfectly for your particular application. One thing I would definitely do is get rid of that beep. A couple of interesting decisions I've made for the interface here. It's actually a double tap to get into any of these menus, which takes a little bit of getting used to initially, but probably a pretty good thing when you've got it in situation, as it means you're not going to accidentally exit out of your dashboard screen when you're sitting there waiting, changing a setting, or waiting for your car to make its run, well, you to make your run in the car down the quarter mile. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of what you're going to receive when you purchase an FT600. It really is pretty amazing that they've managed to pack so much functionality into a tidy integrated package. It should simplify wiring harness construction greatly too, as instead of creating a panel to house your ECU and logger and then having a separate dash in front of the driver to wire to, it's all in the one spot with one set of connectors. We're really looking forward to getting some experience with one of these units in an upcoming build, and I can't wait to get one installed, set up, and hit that first two-step launch off the line.